Welcome back. President Cyril Ramaphosa tomorrow will leave for the United States for a meeting with his counterpart, Donald Trump. Ramaphosa is firm about what he is going to tell Trump about allegations of genocide perpetrated against Afrikaners in South Africa. Ramaphosa and Trump are scheduled to meet on Wednesday at the White House more than a week after the arrival of a group of Afrikaners in the U.S. Following their arrival, Trump repeated the claim that they were facing genocide.
South Africans, both black and white, that there's no genocide here. We are not genociders. We are not committing any act of hatred, act of retribution against or violence against anyone who is a citizen, even if they are not citizens of our country. We are not made that way. So we will obviously, if this matter comes up, we will make that extremely clear. Every South African knows and agrees that there's no genocide here. And the false stories that have been perpetrated or that have been bandied around, we all know are not true. They are not a reflection of who we are. We are a peace-loving country, a country that is committed to transformation, to ensuring that the people of our country have a better life, and all of them for that matter, without distinguishing whether this one is black, this one is white. It's all South Africans, as set out in the Freedom Charter, as set out in our own constitution. So we are very clear about that. So we will be carrying forward a South African message, and we are very, very strong on that, and robust as well.
Joining us now is Johanna LeBlanc, U.S. National Security Law and Foreign Relations expert. A very good morning to you, Johanna. I believe it's morning on your part of the world. Thank you so much for joining us today. So the refugees, so-called South African Afrikaner refugees, have now been in the U.S. for a number of days now. And a few Americans have questioned how the U.S. government it plans to upkeep the Afrikaner refugees. What responses are generally given by the government with regards to their plan around these refugees?
First and foremost, thank you so much for having me. It's not just citizens that are having questions around the process that was created to bring those white South Africans into the United States, but it's also international human rights groups, as well as other churches and other major actors in this process. As you know, President Ramaphosa has made it very clear that there is no such issue of genocide against white South Afrikaners in South Africa, which is expected because most governments usually deny claims of genocide or claims of discrimination. But there's another part that we're not discussing, is that normally when such things occur, you have reports by the United Nations, right? You have reports by major international human rights groups. And in this case, we have not seen any reports, any credible reports from any other organizations saying that there is indeed a genocide against white South Afrikaners in South Africa, for the exception of the United States saying so. So there seems to be some level of discrepancy in terms of what's happening in South Africa versus the perception of what is happening here, of what is actually taking place by decision makers here in Washington. And it's rather concerning, and it's something that's going to take a great deal of continuous diplomatic discussions to come up with an actual agreement of what is really happening in South Africa.
So our president, Cyril Ramaphosa, will be leaving for the U.S. tomorrow. We're expecting him to have that meeting with President Trump on Wednesday. And some opposition parties in South Africa, such as the EFF, have said that the president actually shouldn't be going to the U.S. to explain any of our laws that we have put in place because of what South Africa has gone through. And there isn't any answering to the U.S. that needs to happen, so to speak. From the U.S.'s point of view, is this a much anticipated meet between the two presidents, and what can we expect from that engagement?
Well, it is a very well anticipated meeting by the public because, as you know, I believe President Ramaphosa will be the first African president to sit down and have a conversation with Mr. Trump since he has taken office. So this is a bit historic and unprecedented. But even more so, I think that South Africa and the U.S. Are partners on various initiatives. The United States has a number of American businesses that engage in commercial affairs in South Africa. So the United States has a great deal of interest about what's happening in South Africa. And South Africa also has a great deal of interest in maintaining a good relationship with the United States, but one that is based on mutual respect and respect for South Africa's sovereignty and certainly South Africa's rule of law. But I think it's also important to note that there are other issues that has to be discussed between the United States and South Africa because the relationship has been strained since Mr. Trump took office, and even before Mr. Trump took office, even under President Biden's presidency. You have the issue of Iran. You have the issue of the U.S.'s support for Israel and the ICJ court case against Israel for genocide against Palestine. So there are a lot of policies that the United States and South Africa do not agree on that must be discussed in order to move forward with progressive and productive diplomatic relations.
All right. We'll certainly see what will come out of that meeting this coming Wednesday in Washington. Thank you so much for giving us your time. That's Johanna LeBlanc, U.S. national security law and foreign relations expert, speaking to us there about President Cyril Ramaphosa meeting with President Trump, and this being the first African president to meet with President Trump since his inauguration. All right.